Thank you again for joining our little chat. My name is Afatchao, and I'm the president of the board of ICPSD.
I'm Whitney Schroeder. I am the executive director of ICPSD. Today we wanted to try and speak to some of the challenges we have faced with the restoration work over in Togo. Ro, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I could think of a lot of them actually, but I will mention a few. So, as you all know, our reforestation starts with our nursery project. Basically, we need to we are basically growing those seeds in the soil that to provide those to provide plants for reforestation, right, purposes, and then and later on that's gonna fit in within our bigger ecosystem restoration approach. One of the main challenges at the nursery site, at the nursery level, right, right now, is sourcing seeds.
Yeah.
It's frustrating because we don't have a seed bank in the country.
Well, and native seeds specifically.
Native
Yeah.
species, yeah, seed bank for native tree species. We don't have them. So we rely on sort of a collection by some local private organizations that do it on their own, but they don't have a way to properly store the seeds, right? So a lot of the seeds are very hard to find, especially for the tree species that are disappearing. They're very hard to find, and when you finally get your hands on those seeds, a lot of them come to us, in bad shape, and when you try to grow them, you don't get anything. You're lucky if you get like a 1% or 2% germination, and that's really frustrating because we spend a lot of money on just getting seeds, right? So getting seed, no systematic way of doing it. That's why we think, and this is maybe I may mention this right away, is that in the long run, we're gonna have to have a way, find a way for people to store seeds, those seeds from those native species, because they're so rare to find, and when you find them, you don't want to waste them. Number one.
Follow up to number one. So with the native species that we've been able to plant on our site, like our research site, how far out are we from being able to produce our own seeds?
Oh boy, many years. Those trees don't grow fast. So a lot of them, I would say, we are 10 to 15 years out, right? In order to be able to harvest seed from our own experimental site, and then be able to use those, in our nursery. And a lot of the seed that we get them not. It's very hard to find them in Noche even, because Noche area is so degraded that it's very hard to find. If you find a tree that might give you the seed, they're in such a bad shape that you don't want to use those seeds.
Yeah, it's
right.
not producing well.
It's not producing well, so we have to go very far out in the Palime region, the border with Ghana, right, in order to get some of the seed.
Usually a multi-day road trip.
Yes, and then you go, and then you get the seeds, and then the seed don't work well.
No.
So we've tried different providers. So far, we haven't been happy with any of them truly, because not the people themselves, but it's because they don't have the technique to actually conserve those seeds.
Yeah.
Right. This year, for example, we are struggling to have a seed for shade tree. Yeah, we still haven't gotten the seed yet.
So that lotion we all love.
Yeah, yeah.
The shea butter.
But one of the main reasons is that this is not the season. So we're gonna grow it later on in the season. We will have, because people wanted to. It's a seed that if you don't know how to conserve it, you have to use it as you get them right away. And we don't get the fruit from the shade trees until June. June or July. So that's when we're gonna start, using we're gonna start the nursery of those tree species.
Yeah, which works great with our current seedling cycle, because usually we have the stuff that we start in the beginning of the year planted by that time.
And there are other local tree species that have the same issue, we're having the same issues with, because especially the fruit trees, because fruit usually in Togo, yeah, they, we get fruit in between June and July, right? So, and if you cannot conserve the seeds, then that's when you're gonna start the, growing those seeds, seedlings. So that's what we're gonna do this year and see how that works. So for hardwoods, that's pretty straightforward. You get the seeds. If you're lucky, you get good seed, then you can actually start the germination process right away. Anyway, so that's one challenge. Sourcing seeds is challenge. For a long time, as you know, we've dealt with the water, but thank God, because of the support of our donors, we were able to have water at the nursery. We have a well at the nursery, and we also have a city water at the nursery. So yeah, as a backup. So that's working out really well. So
and tanks, we installed a few reclamation tanks
as well, to be able to use those the water, rainwater as well. So which is very, very good. Another challenge is on the type challenges that don't depend on us, right? We talk about how do you call it, transhumance, for example, as being one of the biggest challenges. We talk about it in one
capacity.
And then we can't do that if we don't have the resources to basically fence our exploitation side or our experimental side. Have somebody living in there. So that's another big challenge. And then on our side, I would say the one that really depends on us, and if we have resources, the resources will solve it quickly, is the fact that we don't have the manpower. Basically, we actively need to have people who are well versed, not just in the science of growing trees and planting trees, but the people who are well versed in actively managing those exploitation. Because if we don't manage them, it's going to be very difficult. Right, and you need manpower. There is no way around it. And then the reason why that is so key to what we're doing, because like I said in the previous video, is that if we're able to get that expertise in house and share it with the local, then we can teach the local the same type of expertise.
It becomes a community.
A community resource, right? And then communities themselves, as we are doing with one of our partners, Lolonu, we can train them in those stuff, and then they can become a resource for other folks in the other organization within the community and within the wider country, right? If we can actually bring it at the country level, that would be good. But like we said, it's never going to be like a big plant at the country level, but a small community replicated, small community level.
Well, and I think just in case people aren't aware too, many of you who have been around for a few years might be familiar with Edward, who has been that person for us. He's had the expertise, but what is very common is folks get opportunities and move on, and so he got a wonderful opportunity at U.S. Forest Service. Their international arm. So he's still in touch and still around, but he's traveling a lot more and can't. He got this wonderful opportunity, and we're glad he took it. But if we can build that foundation of community knowledge, then one single person with single expertise does not become such a crucial piece. And then when they leave, it is not such a devastating blow to the operations. So.
You're right. That is a very important.
Back
if we
to
can,
that capacity piece.
Yeah, capacity building is a key to what we're doing. If you look at it, a lot of the communities or a lot of folks that are helping us, they're doing it, as volunteers basically, and which is good. We want the community to do that, but at the same time, if you want to be credible, you want to be credible in the long run in the community, you need people with the right expertise embedded in the community. And then where they can actually be sharing their knowledge and all those stuff instead of having to rotate people over all the time. And then, like you mentioned, losing that, I would say it don't get that opportunity, which is very good, right? We are very proud that somebody like that, we supported him, and he got this so passionate about what he does. Obviously, he's always gonna be involved in what we do, but he's not there all the time anymore. So we need to find that replacement, and hopefully be able to expand, not just have one person, but have people who can actually be leading the charge in the the science portion of what we're trying to do. So Obviously, we travel from here also with people from the community, from the University of Idaho. But it's a once a year or twice a year trip, and then we haven't done a trip since the start of COVID. So having that person in the community is critical to what we do. So, yeah.
Well, and someone with a more direct, community like a tie and understands the context at a level that just someone from the outside never.
Those are the three biggest challenges. Sourcing seeds, transhumance issues, and the capacity. Personnel capacity for us in the country. Those are the three biggest challenges that I could think of. I could cite others, but those we can manage.
And if folks are unfamiliar with transhumance, we have another little chat that you can go find, and we get into that in a lot more detail. But it's essentially the migratory herders that move north to south through the different countries.
So those are the challenges that we have. Obviously, our dream is big, but somebody asked me, right? You could solve these problems if you can have a nursery production facility. The idea behind that is basically you have a huge nursery that can produce, let's say, hundreds of thousands, if not million, seedlings, and then you can sell them, and then and then you can generate revenues to support your activities. On the outside, that's not a part of us, because if we do that, we are taking something away from the community.
Yep.
We want them to be the one.
Yeah.
Those, people in the community now, some folks in the community have their own nursery business. That's what we want.
Yeah. Well, it's like we've talked about in some other situations of like that Western ideology coming in and saying, hey, if you just did this big thing, you could make this work and have all this impact. And so, yeah, we can see the value in that idea, but we're going to take it and we're going to put it at the community level. And so instead of one huge operation that we run, our goal is to get foundational resources to people so that they can get their own nurseries. Then they have another source of income. It's giving back to their own communities. They can, take their knowledge, both from a scientific and indigenous standpoint, and specify plants and approaches to their local communities.
And that way it's more sustainable because they're in the community. They're members of the community, right? They create employment in their own community. If we come in with a big nursery exploitation, then we're not gonna be a part of the community. We're just coming from top down, saying like this huge exploitation. Yes, we might be able to raise some revenues to actually support our activities, but then it's not the community-led stuff anymore, right? So it's that challenge for us, but at the same time, I love what we're doing, right? And obviously, what we are learning, as you know, the ultimate goal is to be able to share with other communities within the country. I remember when Andrew and I met with the cabinet, the minister in charge of environment, in 2017, I believe 2017 and in 2018, because we met him twice. One of the things that he's always said to us was that it will be interesting if what we are doing in Noche, which is a part of the Plateau region, could be replicated in the other 4 regions in Togo, right? So Togo has 5 regions. Noche is a part of the Plateau region, and then we have all the other five regions. And he's saying that, and plus actually the capital, which is basically another region of itself. Yeah. So if we can do that, and we told him, ultimately that will be something that we wanted to do, right? In the short run, that would be nice because we don't want to wait until we figure out everything on this side before we start sharing, right?
Yep.
But you need a seed grant to start stuff like that. You need a seed grant to replicate those stuff and go. You cannot just go into community and tell you gotta do this. You gotta take a lot of work to build that sort of a community network, right?
And relationship.
the relations and all those stuff in order to be able to start something like that. Noche, we started in Noche because of my own personal background in that community. I grew up in that community, so I knew I know a lot of folks in the community, right? People who are in decision makers now, the people who are leaders in the community. Those are my classmates when I was in grade school, right?
Yeah.
A lot of them. I remember when we started the project, the mayor of town was my uncle, right? Yeah, God bless his soul. He passed now, but at least that gave us a foundation, our entry in the stuff, to get the paperwork, to get a lot of things, and then he introduced me to other folks in the community, and then we got introduced to Lolonu as a big key part of the community. And Lolonu itself also introduced us to other side of the community. For example, to be our first meeting with the AV chief was Lolonu. So you make those connections, and if you know the connect, then you become a part of the fabric. So they don't see us as a foreign organization in town.
Yeah, I'm really kind of the lone foreigner
Yeah.
in our context most of the time.
Thank God we now have she as well. So.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point in terms of it's coming in from that aspect of building relationship and listening and being like, hey, we have this idea, what do you think of it? And those conversations and letting it grow from there, instead of coming in and mandating or dictating. I think the other kind of thing you mentioned that I wanted to touch on is, and we kind of talked about this earlier, but because we're focused on the kind of that tortoise approach rather than the hare. Sometimes it's hard, people's attention spans. Like you said, we've had people come to us and say, hey, this, you could do this. And it's like, yeah, we're getting there. And that's not the answer a lot of people want to hear. And holding interest in getting that buy-in to that long-term vision is, I would say, another challenge to add to our list.
Yeah, and folks who know a little bit about Africa, they have a different way of life. Time does not move fast as it moves in the West. People move slowly, and then with purpose. They move slowly with purpose, and then it might be frustrating to folks coming from the West, but it's their life. It's how they manage it. It's how they manage it for millennia, and we're not gonna go and ask them to change.
No, and how can you ask anyone to move forward if they don't have the resources to do so? So move forward quickly.
Yeah. So I wanted to say the cliche. One other thing that I thought about it is the cliche stuff. We don't have the resources. We don't have the money, and everybody knows we don't.
Yeah.
So would money solve all the problems? No. Money is never gonna solve all the problems, but it could help. Right? It could help address some of those issues that we mentioned. The fence, the structure, getting more staff, and all those stuff, right? So those are going to be very important. But the challenges like transhumance, you can have as much money as you want. You can solve your own problem, but you're not going to be able to solve the problem at the community level, right? So those are going to be we're going to intensify our engagement. Right, with the herders and also with other community members, and see how we one day come up with a solution that will be very good for the community, and could also help the nomadic herders keep their activities, right, and also help the farmers keep their farms so that the farm don't get destroyed by other folks trying to provide for themselves. So it's this sort of a conflictual needs, right? Yeah.
Well, and help set that foundation, right, for that long-term vision of people having, communities having their own nurseries, and what that looks like, and how, that symbiosis can build on it, because you mentioned it earlier in a previous video, I can't remember, but about, we're not going to be here forever. Our goal is not to be, as an organization, to not be the ones, primarily doing the things forever. And sometimes I think that's another hard thing for the Western context to sometimes wrap their mind around is it's like you're donating, like we are investing support in these communities so that we don't have to be there in the long run.
Exactly. Someone, I got a question from one of my students the other day, who learned about the project and wanted to know more. And she asked me a question. So, like what you just said, how long are you gonna be in the community? Excuse me. So she asked me the question. How long are you gonna be in the community? Well, I'm like, that's an interesting question because I can't put a timestamp on it, because obviously we're not just doing this work and planting trees in the community, but we're also doing science. We're learning how to grow these various species, and so far we haven't made a dent yet. Well, we haven't made a dent in the number of species that we should be working on yet. So I don't know. I can't put a timestamp on it, and because we don't know, right? But ideally,
we can predict the future.
Ideally, if we are successful, that means that we will work ourselves out of business, and that's the ideal, right?
Yeah.
But we can predict the future, and then the work, we still have a lot of work, a lot to learn, right? In order to share those, whatever we will be learning. So it's a tough question. We don't know. We're gonna be in it for the long haul, and also it's very tricky. If the communities know that you're not gonna stick around for a long time, you don't have the buy-in either.
Yep.
So you don't wanna end up overstaying. You're welcome, but at the same time, you don't wanna be like the other organization that will come for a few years and leave, and then leave whole.
Yep.
To feel in the community.
Or leave a bunch of broken technology that can't be replaced.
Yeah.
I always think of the quote, and I can't remember who it was. If it was, I don't even want to try and butcher getting it wrong, but the quote about how it's takes 7 generations for like a lasting change to take effect, and I think about that a lot with this work of. That long goal. It is a long goal if you really want it to be truly sustainable and community centric.
With climate change now, those community, what we're doing is going to be key to their resiliency and also adaptability when it comes to climate change. Yeah, because it's not business as usual. It's not gonna do it, and a lot of those people. A lot of the people living in the community, they only know how to do things in a certain ways, right? And those have worked for them so far, but it's also resource intensive. Cutting trees for agriculture, cutting trees for cooking, to provide energy for cooking, right? Cutting trees for this and that. All those stuff are working destroy ecosystem, but as the impact of climate change intensified, right? We're gonna have, those communities are gonna have way more trouble, right?
Yep.
Adapting and adjusting. So that's why right now is the time to start making those key changes and restoring the ecosystem they could restore. Planting trees, using agroforestry. All those little stuff here and there, when you pull them together, they're gonna make a difference, right? At the local level, at the national level, and obviously regional and global level. So we're hoping that people will understand that when we're doing this, it's not just because we have passion for this issue, because at the end of the day, people's life and livelihood are at stake here, right? And they know when we talk to them, they know. They talk about climate change and they talk about how the cycle of rains and all those stuff are messed up now. They can figure out how things are working. They're gonna have to transition to different crops. That's the process of adaptability, right? They're gonna have to adapt to the changes, but at the same time, there are things they can do in order to retain some type of normalcy in their community. Yes, they've shown resiliency for millennia, right?
Yeah.
But they're gonna need more of that. But in order to do that, they need that adaptation.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Cool. I guess that's so the challenges are big, folks, as you can see them. No, but that's like any other community, right? But over there, it's because of where they are right now, right? It's so difficult to just see how they can do some of those things we have without some support. And support is not like dictating. No, support is working with them.
Yeah, the true meaning of the word.
Yeah.
Supporting them to do what they need to.
Yeah.
All right. Any last thoughts?
No, I as always, I wanted to thank all the folks who support our work, who are engaged, not just by donating, but also by sharing things we are doing. We are always open to people who wanted to come with us and go see what we are doing. So you know that we are open to that. It's another leg that we're talking in another video in another day. Another day is basically to talk about some of the connections we're making, between the communities over here on this side of the world in the United States, and then the communities over there. So over the years we've taken various trips with people, the university, the high school. So we're open to any other folks who might want to take those type of trip. It could be like a team building trip for a company or for any other stuff. And if you're excited about the work we do, we want you to come with us, and
come plant some trees.
Come plant trees. Come grow seedlings, right? And then come engage with the youth, because another portion of the work is youth leadership, and we need to incentivize and create that passion among the youth when it comes to ecosystem restoration work. So thank you for your support over the years.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us for our little chat today. We'll see you next time.
Yep, see ya.